Life Change TV. This week we have an amazing guest, Kelly Walsh, also known as the Positivity Princess, and we'll get to that in a minute. Sounds intriguing, doesn't it? But we're going to keep you hanging in there until you find out a little bit later on exactly what the Positivity Princess is all about. I was introduced to Kelly by another amazing guy. Kelly's project is amazing. Everything that Kelly is about is really positive. It's really beneficial towards people, the planet, and it really kind of talks about or sets a standard as to how we should live our lives. I think that's fair to say. So I'm going to stop the introduction there. Welcome, and thank you for being on Life Change TV.
Thank you, Mark, and thank you for having me. I'm delighted to be on the show.
It's my pleasure. So, before we get to what Positivity Princess is all about, explain to us a little bit about your journey before everything that you went through, really, in order to get to this project that you've launched.
Okay. Happy little child, but slightly overweight, what they would refer to as chubby. And at the age of 10, my father had a nervous breakdown.
Okay.
And at the time, my mum was struggling with, obviously, dealing with family issues. And I got sent to a secondary school where none of my friends went. And I, like a lot of children, started to experience bullying due to my weight. And this set off a sequence of events, really, in terms of my starting to self-love, not liking myself, outwardly appearing happy with a big smile, but inwardly, you know, not loving myself, hating myself, feeling like a misfit. This continued on into my latter years. At the age of 17, I stopped eating, so lost a considerable amount of weight. Then from there, I ended up, like a lot of, trying to, I got into the party scene, started to do drugs to block out the pain. In my early 20s, I met my ex-husband, and if I'm being honest, I couldn't believe a good-looking guy would find me attractive, because my feelings about what I looked like were so low at that particular time. But hasten to add, he did. He found me attractive, and we ended up getting married. But in my 20s, although I was successful in many ways, I got into sales, and in sales I was great. However, I think that was probably playing the actress to some degree. And in my 20s, I started to suffer from periods of deep depression.
Okay, so can I just pause there for a minute? Let's just rewind a little bit. So, everything that you were going through at school at a young age.
Yeah.
At what age were you consciously aware of the fact that you were unhappy?
I was happy up until the age of starting secondary school, so my unhappiness kicked in around the age of 11.
And was there a specific moment that brought that on?
A sequence of events, really. I started secondary school. I linked in with a young lady who began to bully me incessantly. Went on a school summer holiday, like a school summer trip, and I vividly remember everybody. This girl had the main bully's got a way of gathering the troops, so to speak, and I ended up firstly being on the coach trip, being sat on the way to France. The guy sat on top of me as if I was nothing on the floor. Got bullied. Spent the whole week really being left out completely. When I got back from the trip, I didn't tell my parents. Like a lot of children, was being bullied and was upset, but didn't want my parents to know because I didn't want the school to find out. So I was sort of protecting the bully, because there's nothing worse, is there, than you being the grass, so to speak. So I just continued to suffer in silence.
So let me ask, if you don't mind me just asking, so instead of telling your parents, obviously, when you talk to your parents or to somebody about that, you kind of, it's an outlet. You can start to get rid of those emotions and your feelings around that. You can discuss it. Was it a case that you didn't speak to anybody and therefore you were internalizing all those feelings?
Yeah, totally internalising. Don't get me wrong, I did have some friends. I wasn't completely isolated, but to the outside world, I looked happy, big smile on my face, but inside was breaking down.
But you wouldn't have
I
necessarily,
remember,
sorry,
sorry.
you wouldn't have necessarily spoke to your friends. Or did you speak to your friends about how you were feeling about the situation?
No, I didn't. I remember one thing that made me laugh. This always sticks in my mind, and I think this was a sequence of events that led to me not believing my ex-husband could find me attractive. I remember
Yeah.
walking down the school corridor and this particular girl saying to three other girls, and you know it's like when you're 12, you're impressionable, saying, "You'll always get a boyfriend because you're pretty. You'll always get a boyfriend because you're this. You'll always get a boyfriend because you're that. And Kelly, you're fat and ugly, but you will get a boyfriend one day because you've got a nice personality." And I guess that stuck with me for many, many years. The girl with the nice personality, but who was fat and ugly. So, they're getting emotional now.
No, and thank you for sharing this. This is really important stuff. That there's two levels, and I know we'll get to some of this in a minute, but there's two particular levels here that stand out to me. One is the fact that there are lots of people who might be watching this who are older and still have those memories or those feelings or those words that have been spoken over them in such a similar way when they were young. And it's really, we can be really flippant about it, can't we? That as kids we say flippant things. Children say flippant things that mean nothing at the time, and yet, as you're saying, even as you're discussing it, that emotion is coming back. Those words said in the playground or in that moment
Mm-hmm.
have it's like a voice that's echoed throughout the future of your life. So
Yeah.
that's one thing. And then the other thing is how society hasn't changed, has it? That I know that children today still say the same stuff.
Yeah.
They still bully other kids in the same way, using the same language and terminology. And so we haven't been able to break that cycle, have we?
No, not at all. And it continues day in day out in every, but not just in playgrounds. It continues in
Mm,
the work capacity.
yeah,
It continues at all levels.
absolutely.
And my belief is it stems from all bullying stems from a lack of love for
Mm,
yourself. So at
absolutely.
times, if I'm being honest, I know there's a girl contacted me recently in the past few months who were
Mm,
friends on Facebook, and she said, she remembers me calling her Little Lord Fauntleroy, and my words probably had a negative effect on her, and I think that's me being open and honest. That when you are bullied, you can actually your defense mechanisms, because I would try and act like a tough child. So my
yeah.
people who know my story now are shocked because they said, you just remember this confident, chubby, big smile on her face person. But my
And it's
outwardly appearing happy was my way of coping.
Yeah, absolutely. And isn't that, it's funny, isn't it? Because I know I was the same situation. I was bullied at school, and such what we would call sort of in the personal development world significant emotional events. So events that were really, really, you really felt and you remember. You can recall them. You can remember how you felt and the impact that you have even now. And yeah, I was in the same situation where not too long ago, I was talking to a childhood school friend about a situation, and their recall of that event was totally different to everything that I'd taken on board at that time, in the
Yeah,
state that I was in. Um, and that's how we carry those things through our lives when that person might not have meant that at that particular time, but
totally.
it's how we perceived our world in that state that we were in as a child that can totally impact our future, which is why stuff like personal development and life coaching, hypnosis, dealing with stuff in order to help you become the person that you were always created to be is really important.
Yeah, definitely.
So let's get to, so sorry to butt in there, we got to the guy that you were married to that you didn't believe you were good looking enough for. So let's continue from there.
Yeah, so I met him. As I said, I was shocked that he found me attractive, but we got together. And I had, don't get me wrong, I did have a love for the guy, but I didn't truly love me, so it would never have worked because
Absolutely.
I still had stuff to work through. And you know, as I said, I got a job. I got a job in sales and did exceptionally well.
Yep.
But I suffered times in my 20s of deep depression, and to the point where I couldn't go out the house. Didn't want to get dressed. Didn't, you know, just it was just a black cloud. I remember saying, "Will the sun ever shine again?" That's the feeling, and I think, you know, for anyone who's suffering from depression out there, the last thing what they want to hear is just pull your socks up, because that's not that. I don't think, unless anyone's experienced it, they don't realise how painful it really is. And you know, wouldn't wish it upon anyone. But as I say, but what I started to do in my 20s was, because I had so much stuff I needed to work through, I started to try and externalise my happiness through material things. So I was searching. So I, you know, just did frivolous things with money to try and, again, find what I was looking for. And eventually, I got to a point where I recognised that I couldn't truly love my husband. I ended up leaving my husband at the age of 33. But I took on all the guilt and all the responsibility. Transpired my husband had actually met someone anyway, so it worked out for the best in the end. But at the age of 33, it was like a domino effect. I split with my husband, lost my home, crashed my car, granddad died. Everything that could have sort of gone wrong went wrong. And I wasn't strong enough to deal with it. And I ended up having to move back to my parents. And my dad, and I love my dad with all my heart, and we, you know, we're very, very close. And my dad didn't know how to deal with the situation because of his own upbringing. And really, you know, we've talked about it since, you know, rather than saying, "Your home, princess, you can build," my dad, bless him, in his wisdom, sort of said, "Well, you've made a right balls up now. What are you going to do?" And you know, I took those words literally, and, you know, I was in a weak place. I'd lost hope. You know, I'd lost hope. And I decided in that split second that what was the point of me being here anymore? I was a burden on society. I'd lost everything in terms of, but lost me, and my recollection was I'd lost everything from a material perspective. And how would I rebuild? And I decided in that split second to attempt to take my own life. And I grabbed everything I could find in the cupboard, all paracetamol based predominantly, swallowed lots and lots of tablets, wrote a note to my parents, but put it under the bed so they wouldn't find it till I'd gone. Got my best friend to pick me up. She had no idea what I'd done. We went out for dinner, and I was literally falling asleep at the table. And she was questioning, "What's wrong with you?" And I just said, "Oh, I've got a virus." I got her to drop her off at my other friend's house, and I stayed there for 3 days. Again, they had no idea what I'd done. I expected to die pretty quickly. But anyone, I've since found out with paracetamol or tablets, it's a very slow and painful death. Woke up next day, couldn't believe I was still here. So got my friend, bless her, I said, "Oh, I've got a headache, have you got any tablets?" And she didn't have any in. So she went and bought me a full pack from the local shop. And I took those, I swallowed the whole pack. Second day in, my body was starting to, I coughing up bile, but still was alive, and I just couldn't understand, how long does this take? My body started to sort of scratch and itch. On the third day, 72 hours in from taking my overdose, I actually ended up speaking to my mum, and something just sort of, it was like, what have I done? And I guess that feeling of guilt kicked in, speaking to my mum. And at that split second, I told my friend, I said, Luke, I've took an overdose. Obviously, she was in complete panic and shock. She rushed me down to the infirmary. And on the way, I was like, please don't tell my mum and dad. I don't want them to know. Please don't tell them. Please don't tell them. Anyway, got to the hospital, and anyone who watches medical programs, believe you me, it's not what you see on the television. I was just put in the, not that I'm more important than anybody else, but when you've took a big overdose, speed, I believe, is the essence. And I was just put in the reception, casual, in the accident and emergency area. Probably sat there a good hour, and then eventually I was called through. They asked me what I'd done, told them, but then they went off to do like a swab test to see how much is in your body. And that's when I remember vividly watching the doctor walk towards me, and he had this like look of horror on his face. It was sort of like, oh my gosh, this girl's really done it,
Wow.
Not a little bit. And basically, my liver enzymes were at 10,000, and they should be at 40.
Wow.
And because I'd not gone into hospital for 3 days, they couldn't pump my stomach because it was too far gone.
Oh, wow.
And I remember, I'll never forget the look, my mum and dad walking in, and obviously my mum was devastated. My dad, he didn't know where to look. I think my dad was more, I don't know, at the time, it looked like a face of disgust, which I can't blame him, but again, I just don't think he knew how to handle the situation.
Sure.
So
again, thank you for sharing that. That's a powerful story, and I think the key that really kind of stood out for me is the statement that you made, that you felt like as though you'd lost yourself.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's really powerful, that, isn't it? Because when you kind of lose that connection with yourself, and viewers of Life Change TV and of my website, Life Change the Revolution, will know that, and we've discussed this, that I tried to take my own life too, and you're right, and you've described it really well, but it's like you're then just going through the motions, you're existing.
Yeah.
You get to that place of rock bottom where you're merely existing, but there's no life in that existence.
There's no life, there's no joy, there's no happiness, there's just, well, as I say, complete loss of hope. Just, I guess
so,
not appreciating life, the gift that life is to you at that point. Life isn't a gift, life is a nightmare.
Yeah, absolutely.
That you want and you want that nightmare to end.
That's really good points. And so moving forward, firstly, what piece of advice would you have for somebody that might be in that situation at the moment? If they're looking at this video feeling just down, they might not feel suicidal, but really down, what one piece of advice on your experience would you encourage them to do to sort of change that situation?
For me, I think the most important thing is to reach out. You're not on your own. You're never on your own. And, however you're feeling, it's nothing to be ashamed of. And there's so much love in the world for you. And if I can help anyone, I'm here. Pick up the phone, email me. Positivity Princess will help you in any way she can. Because no one on planet Earth should feel the way I felt or you felt, Mark. And
that's awesome. That's great. That's really good. And so, That's great advice and a key advice. You know, as you say that, I think when we get so in that situation, you get so self-absorbed, and you think that you shouldn't be thinking these feelings. You shouldn't be having a tough time, and yet you're right. People are astounded. Like your friend was astounded that you'd gone through that act of trying to take your own life, and yet I'm sure. And in my situation, people would have wanted to know to reach out and help. So sometimes when we don't think people care, they really, really do. So that's great, solid advice to reach out. And so let's move forward a little bit. So thankfully, the process of trying to end your life didn't work out, which is great,
No,
and
it
which is
didn't.
why you're here, which is awesome. And so everything now starts to take a positive slant, doesn't it? So can you explain that sort of journey?
Yeah, of course I can. Well, going back to sort of the night that I went into hospital, I
Mm.
got moved onto a ward where like an observation ward, and they sent the minister from the, like, because it was so serious, they sent the minister around to sort of pray with me and sort of just sort of look after me. And they gave me a wooden cross, and I survived the night. And in the morning, there was all these nurses on the ward, but there's this one particular nurse who I never saw again. And I remember her vividly. To me, she was an angel. She was just beautiful with pure white blonde
Yeah.
hair. And she came up to me and she touched me on the arm and she said, "When you get out of here, read Conversations with God." That's all she said. Nothing more, nothing less. Just when you get out of here, read Conversations with God. So the next night, I was moved on to a psychiatric ward. Um, and that night, I had what I can only describe as a near-death, an out-of-body, whatever you want to call it, but I had an experience, a very spiritual experience.
That's amazing.
Um, yeah, it was night time. I had my little wooden cross because that was my protection. I was
Mm.
holding it for dear life, and I went on what I can only describe as a journey. I felt as if there was people around me with their hands over their finger over their mouth, going, "Shh, be quiet." And I literally was all I can describe was like holding on for dear life. And it
Wow.
wasn't a pleasant experience at first. I
Mm.
remember thinking, if I open my eyes, that's it. So I held on for dear life. And as I describe it as going through 7 dimensions. When I say dimensions, it's like bumps in the universe. And as I went through these bumps, my whole life was thrown at me. Everything was just thrown at me. Memories, experiences, thoughts. It was just all coming at me. And it's quite a painful journey to some degree. But then all of a sudden I got where I got. I don't remember what it looked like. I just had this overwhelming feeling of I've made it. It was so
Mm.
peaceful. I'd made it. Anyway, when I got there, there was this all of a sudden there was this conversation about me, and I remember having this conversation. Again, I can't describe what they look like. I just have this recollection of being in a conversation.
Mm.
And essentially, the conversation went along the lines of, "I'm strong," which seemed ironic considering where I was in my life. That I had work to do.
Yeah.
That basically, in not so many words, but the world needs to change. Um, Essentially shown that the world can heal on a physical level, emotional level, spiritual level,
Mm.
um, and basically that with like-minded individuals that there was work to do on planet Earth.
Mm.
I came through. I was actually as well. I had this vivid memory of you can do whatever. It was like a message of strength and power. You can do anything. And when I came through the experience next day, I remember my ex-mother-in-law was at the end of the bed, and I think my mum, and my arms were across my chest, literally crossed like this, and
Mm.
I came through this experience, and as I opened my eyes, I just opened my arms like this, in slow motion, and it was just the most surreal experience. And it was like, I was sort of thinking, why am I in this bed? I can be anything, do anything.
Yeah.
And I actually, this will make you all giggle, but I literally tried to escape the ward, naked, through the men's ward, because I had such power.
Oh.
I was off, that was it, I was going. I was off to meet all these like-minded individuals and change the world. But, you know, laughing, joking apart, the following night, this vision came back to me, and I shouted out that the world's going to change and we're going to collectively change the world. A week later, I walked out of hospital with a clean bill of health, no damage whatsoever, which is a miracle in itself. Yeah, and don't get me wrong, I didn't skip out of hospital all positive. I was rebuilding my life. I wouldn't want anyone to think that I had this experience and everything was wonderful, because it wasn't. I have to go for my own journey of healing. Yeah. So really, I came out of hospital, back to my parents. My parents were amazing. My mum was cooking me meals and looking after me. And slowly but surely, things gradually, I started to read personal development books again and started to take baby steps. And 6 months later, I met my soulmate on a dating site. I know. And you know what's so beautiful? And he's such an amazing guy that a lot of men would have run a mile. And after 3 weeks of being together, I thought I need to tell him my story, my real truth.
Yeah.
I sat him down. Well, I remember crying and telling him, and he just said, "It's in your past. Move forward." And that was it. No more questioning. But then, even though I'd had this experience, I didn't really talk about it. It was sort of like, I guess I didn't feel strong enough to talk about it. I thought, well, people think it's weird, and also I wasn't doing anything towards what I've been shown, so it was sort of like just there in the background. And basically 2 years later, a lot of things have progressed. I had periods, I went down at times, I had low times again, because it was as if my soul's purpose was to do one thing, but I didn't quite know what that was. So every time I got work, I was doing something, I didn't feel alignment. I wasn't alive from it. I just felt this isn't what I'm supposed to be doing, but I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing. And then 2 years later, I went on a personal development training course, and we were sat in a group talking about how much negativity there is in the world presently, and how that, if we don't change things, the impact this can have on children. And in that split second, it was like, boom, and everything that I'd experienced in the near death just came flooding back to me. Wow. And that's really when the journey really started, and I got the idea to create Positivity Princess, and it sort of evolved from there. However, my original concept was just to create 2 dolls for children, Positivity Princess and Positivity Prince, that would speak positive affirming messages to children, and would have an inbuilt recording mechanism so parents and carers could record their own personal messages of love and encouragement. Didn't know I was going to fund it, but I thought this is what I'm supposed to do. However, what happened was I came away from this course, and I believe spiritually this happened for a reason. I got connected to a lady. I was looking for contacts, and I got connected to a lady who was going to a church, and she said, "Do you want to meet me at the church?" And I said, "I would love to." So I went along. I'd not been to church in many, many years. I went along to the church, and basically what happened was we were chatting. It was a beautiful church and lovely people, but I got into this church environment for about 3 months, and I got around very devout religious people who are very devout religious in terms of from a Christian perspective, and I literally, but what I was hearing in this environment didn't feel aligned with what I'd been shown on the other side.
Oh wow!
And I actually did, because again, this wasn't resonating with my soul. I was around don't get around some incredible people, but I was also around a lot of what I would say negativity within religion. I heard a lot of, unless you are a Christian, you're not going to go to heaven.
And that wasn't the message that you were getting from the
not what I was given. No, not at all.
That's powerful. That's really powerful.
I did for about 3 months, and eventually came away from the environment and got back on. But I feel I experienced that for a reason, because it's connected to what I was shown. So I had to experience that to then deliver on what I'm supposed to do.
Yeah. So let's really focus now on Positivity Princess. Explain to the audience, to the viewers, what that is, what it means, what it does, and the journey that you're going on with that. Okay.
Now then, I've created a brand concept, which is Positivity Prince and Positivity Princess. So if you look at the actual branding for the brand, it's a back to front purple P that represents Prince and Princess.
Yeah.
It's got a gold crown above it that represents royalty. But what it's really representing is that we're all as royal as each other, because that's what we perceive as the highest hierarchy. But it's about us all being equal, all at that level. And there's a heart in the middle that signifies love, because all that's pure and positive comes from love. The essence of the brand is that regardless of colour, creed, gender, sexuality, religious beliefs, we're all one, we're all connected. We're all prince and princesses together.
Wow.
What I'm aiming to do is start with children. I've got global vision, but you've got to start somewhere. So I've set up my basic website went live last week, positivityprincess.com. I've built a backstory around the character Positivity Princess Georgia.
Yeah.
Positivity Princess Georgia comes from planet Positavia, which is 7 galaxies away. As you can appreciate, planet Positavia is where I went to.
Yeah.
On my heart, it's heaven, but the reason I said planet Positavia is that every religion in the world, or non-religious, can accept a planet as a truth. So Positivity Princess Georgia comes from planet Positavia. On planet Positavia, it's very like planet Earth in the respect there's different cultures, genders, sexuality, But the main difference is on planet Positavia, again aligned with what I was shown, is that we're all one, we're all connected, and we live by a very simple philosophy, which I hope one day will be embraced on planet Earth. And that simple philosophy is love, care, share, which represents love yourself, truly love yourself, because what's not to love? We're all beautiful. We are, every single person on this planet is beautiful, special, unique, and amazing. And it's about time we knew that and believed that. So love yourself, first and foremost. And when you truly love yourself, then you have the capacity to truly love all others. Entwined with that is love your planet. So it's love yourself, love your planet, and love all others. Care for yourself, care for your planet, and care for all others. And share all that is kind and beautiful in the world. And essentially, that is what, eventually, and I've got a Kickstarter project that went live on Sunday evening, which is a book project for me to deliver on the first children's book, The Adventures of Positivity Princess.
This is awesome.
Yeah, exactly. But the bigger vision over time is to create, through the brand, a global community of real-life positivity prince and princesses who unite as loyal and royal friends around the world and embrace and live by the love, care, share philosophy.
That's awesome. So you're starting off with the book, and presumably as the brand grows, it could be, presumably you're thinking about cartoons on telly and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah. We've got I want. So got the book. What I've not mentioned is, and yeah, I want to do. I've written an animation Bible, so I'd love to. I've got an animation Bible written. Want to do. I want to create a really positive experience for children on online gaming that involve. I want to do positivity Prince and Princess projects in the community. I want to do the Positivity Pageant Awards, which is recognising people for their internal beauty rather than their external beauty.
There's loads of ideas.
But to begin with, it's the book, then the animation, and then obviously all the other things thereafter. But one lovely thing is we named the character Positivity Princess Georgia after a friend of mine who lost his only daughter 4 years ago, and she had red hair, so we decided to call her Positivity Princess Georgia, and her father suggested Positivity Prince George, which I thought was a wonderful idea. So I wrote to the royal family, and I believe Prince George has been with you guys recently, and I got a letter back to give. They've given their approval, which is wonderful. So the royal family are backing the Positivity Prince and Princess project.
That's awesome. That's really good. So that's fantastic. So the first book, you've got a Kickstarter, so you're trying to raise how much money to bring that book to reality, to life?
And the first project is to raise £12,028.
Okay.
Just so people are aware of what the ultimate goal is I want to, with the brand, I want to set up the love. The vision is a limited company that becomes a global brand that becomes worth a lot of money. But what I want to do is give 90%, 90% of all profits I want to put into the Love Care Share Foundation and use those profits to make a positive difference in children's lives around the world.
That's awesome.
So,
and what I really like about this is two things I really like. Well, there's many things I like, but the two things that really stand out to me is, firstly, the goal is to, I think, starting with children, the goal is to really break that chain, like we said earlier. Sorry, I'm just getting the dog off my lap. To break that chain in children, to teach them that there's a different way to be, that they don't have to bully, they don't have to exert control in that way, but to teach that love, care, share philosophy at the very basic level. And if that takes place, if that really goes out to the masses, then you're talking about changing the sort of attitude and characters of generation. We're talking about changing the attitudes of generations to come, which is amazing.
Yeah, most definitely. I think if all children from birth, if they grow up realizing their own worth and how beautiful, special, amazing, gorgeous they are, and don't compare themselves to others, then children can stand united in love and friendship, and they can be and will be the positive difference that the world needs.
Absolutely. So, the other thing that I really love about this, Kelly, is the fact that the whole kind of concept is birthed out of this amazing, and I say amazing because it was, experience that you had of that kind of transformation that you went through. Yes, there were dark times. As a child, there were times that you went through, obviously, when you tried to take your own life. But what's come out of that is totally everything you've said. Is that you can be anything, you can do anything, and that was the same kind of message that I got when I tried to take my own life. That you can do anything. That life is precious. It's a gift, and we live it once. So just to go for it and live it and love it. So I love that even within the whole story that there's a planet Positavia, that it's the 7 galaxies away, which is the 7 sort of realms that you went through yourself. I love the way your personal story is really intertwined with it. And I just think you've done an amazing job with it. So if people watching this want to help out financially and support the project, how do they do that?
If they log on to www.positivityprincess.com, if they go on to, it's clearly labelled Kickstarter Pledge. There's also a video on the homepage. If anyone out there can, every single pound helps. What I'm aiming, you know, I'm 8% there, 3 days in, but I just, you know, I need all the love and support of real life positivity prince and princesses around the globe to truly love, care and share. If they love this project and they want to see it become a reality, if they could help in any way, it starts at £1 right up to 3,000, but every single pound is appreciated. And also, if anyone would like to contact me on the website for collaboration or ideas to work together, you know, if we're going to change the world, we have to do it together. It's not a singular thing; it's a collective thing. And so, yeah.
And also, as you mentioned earlier, Kelly, if people are really kind of resonating with the story in terms of their own life and current life situation, that you're happy for them to go to positivityprincess.com and contact you. Completely,
yes. My heart is open to anyone. I know what it feels like to feel alone. So yeah, just pick up the phone, ring me, Skype me, you know, email me. I'm here for you. And you know, all I can say is for anyone who's feeling darkness at the moment, believe you me, the sun will shine brightly, brighter than any sunshine you've ever seen before. So just hold on.
That's awesome. What an awesome message to share. Thank you so much, Kelly, for being on Life Change TV. I love what you're doing, and I just want to kind of help you promote it as far and wide as possible. And Kelly, you are gorgeous both inside and out. So thank you so much for sharing your passion with us.
We all are. That's the thing, is we're all gorgeous inside and out. Everybody on the planet, everyone's gorgeous inside and out.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Kelly. That was another episode of Life Change TV. Next time we'll be interviewing another equally amazing, positive princess or prince, somebody who's changing lives and who's really passionate about sharing their story with you. So join us next time. We'll see you then. Take care. Bye.